Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video from Oakleigh Watches. Because last week's video was such a success and that was a comparison video between two watches, people were asking for more comparison videos. So this week we have another. This week we're going to be looking at a comparison video between the classic Rolex Submariner Date and the classic Rolex Sea-Dweller. They look very similar. What are the actual differences? How do they wear differently? How do they feel different? That kind of thing. I've got two watches on the table with me today, both made in 2009, both really superb examples of their type. We've got this, which is the 2009 16600 Sea-Dweller. And we have this, which is a 2009 16610 Submariner Date. As you can see, pretty similar. Could you tell the difference between them across a room? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see what the differences actually are. I'm going to start with the obvious differences. Some maybe you already know about, some maybe you don't. The first comes in the kit that comes with it. The Sea-Dweller comes with a special dive kit. It's got a Buhlmann table to help you calculate your decompression rates. It's got a special little tool that comes with it, and that is to allow you to fit and remove the additional diver's link that comes in the little pouch. So when you want to wear your Sea-Dweller over the top of your wetsuit, you put the diver's link in with the special tool, away you go. The other thing that people know about is the Cyclops. It's one of the biggest differences that cause people to make a choice between the two watches. On the glass of the 16610, there's a raised bubble, and that magnifies the date. On the 16600, there is no raised bubble. The reason for that is because of the additional depth that this watch has to go down to. That bubble, the Cyclops, is glued onto the crystal, and at the time that they made this watch, they were unable to find a glue that would withstand the pressure at the depths that this watch has been designed to go down to. The third difference is a more subtle difference and one that you might not be aware of, and it has to do with the sides of the bracelet links. If we look at the 16600 Submariner Date, we'll see that the sides of the bracelet links are a brushed satin finish on the stainless steel. If we look at the sides of the bracelet links of the Sea-Dweller, you'll see that there are a high polished, shiny finish on the sides there. That's the biggest difference between the two bracelets at this point in time. The next difference I want to have a look at is weight. How much difference in weight is there between these two watches? If you hold them in your hands, you can just about tell that there is a weight difference, but that weight difference is pretty minimal. The Submariner Date weighs 135 grams. The Sea-Dweller weighs 147 grams. There's only 12 grams in it, less than 10% of the weight. So you can feel a difference, but it's really not significant. So how do they wear on the wrist? Well, funnily enough, the Sea-Dweller seems to wear slightly narrower than the Submariner Date. They are both 40mm watches, but there are a couple of key differences in the designs that make them just feel slightly different. The Sea-Dweller on the left-hand side has a smaller dial than the Submariner Date. The dial is a millimeter smaller on the Sea-Dweller. The bezel on the Sea-Dweller is larger than on the Submariner Date, so the bezel insert is 1mm bigger. So they've taken a millimeter off the dial and added it onto the bezel insert, and that somehow creates a feel that the Sea-Dweller actually wears slightly smaller when looked at vertically on the wrist than the Submariner Date, despite the fact they are both the same size. Now, the biggest difference between these two watches is the thickness from front to back. The increased thickness that's required by the Sea-Dweller is down to the fact that it is required to go to a much deeper depth than the Submariner Date. The Sea-Dweller in this incarnation is designed to withstand pressures down to 1,220 feet, and the Submariner Date is designed to withstand pressures down to 300 feet. So 4 times deeper for the Sea-Dweller than the Submariner, and that causes some challenges on the case that had to be overcome. But where are these differences? The difference between the Sea-Dweller and the Submariner in terms of thickness is almost 2 millimeters. Now, you would think maybe that those 2 millimeters are added onto the thickness of the case, but actually, if you look at them, and we'll look at them side on, you'll see that really the two cases are not that different in thickness. The Sea-Dweller has a helium release valve on the left-hand side, and the size of that has required the case to be slightly bigger, but not all that much bigger. So where is the second difference? The second difference is that the case back on the Sea-Dweller is reinforced to allow it to go down to that substantial depth. So the case back sticks out of the side of the case further on the Sea-Dweller than it does on the Submariner Date. Perhaps the biggest difference comes from the fact that the crystal on the Sea-Dweller has to be a lot thicker than the crystal on the Submariner. Now, they got around this by putting an additional bevel on the underside of the bezel on the Sea-Dweller. If you look here, you can see that the bezel on the Sea-Dweller kicks up in an angle and is actually a lot thicker than the one on the Submariner that I'll just show you now. There's the Submariner one, and it's actually a lot slimmer than the Sea-Dweller one. So that's the biggest difference on the two. It's in the crystal. So how much difference does it actually make on the wrist? The truth is not a great deal. It's another 2 millimeters. It's not like the difference in size between a Submariner and something like a Deep Sea, which is a substantial watch. It's just a little bit thicker. I don't think that you would choose the Submariner Date over the Sea-Dweller because the Sea-Dweller was too big for you, to be honest. As I said, it actually looks slightly narrower when you look at it face down, and the increased height off the wrist is really not that substantial. A difference that's a little bit less physical is actually the rarity of the two. They make far, far fewer Sea-Dwellers than they do Submariner Dates. Rolex don't actually release production figures easily. They release them a little bit these days, but back when these two watches were made in 2009, the world didn't have access to their production figures. What we can do is we can have a look and see how many are on the second-hand market. And at the moment, for sale online in the UK, there are around 3 times as many Submariner Date 16610s as there are Sea-Dweller 16600s. So it is quite a lot rarer. That rarity adds to a bit of a cachet that comes with the Sea-Dweller, because watch people sometimes will consider the Sea-Dweller to be a little bit of a watch lover's watch, a bit of a connoisseur's dive Rolex. You'll be sitting with somebody and look and think, oh, they've got a Submariner on. Hang on, there's something slightly different about that. Is it a bit thicker? It hasn't got a Cyclops. It's a Sea-Dweller. That maybe is somebody who really loves his Rolex dive watches. Perhaps, as we said, a little bit more of a connoisseur. Don't know whether you believe that. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below, but I have heard it said. So in summary, the Rolex 16600 Sea-Dweller versus the 16610 Submariner Date. Which would you choose? The Sea-Dweller is rarer than the Submariner Date. It looks a little bit narrower on your wrist, but the Submariner Date is lighter and it's slimmer front to back. Other than that, they are ostensibly the same. As with all these things, when it comes down to it, it's personal preference. Which do you love? Which lights your fire? Which gives you the biggest smile when you have it on your wrist? That choice is absolutely down to you. I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you have, please like, please subscribe, please share. The more followers we get, the more responses we get, the more we're able to bring you more videos. We'll see you next week.